Hello, welcome back to Jake's Flip Corner, where we're talking about our top five worst books, and there are, like, I think 3 dishonorable mentions, that are literally just more, like, disappointing books. They're my 3 stars, so our top 5 worst books are all between 1 and 2 stars, and our dishonorable mentions are the 3 stars that I was really looking forward to, and ended up just, like, not working out for me. Book, ironically, that I gave 1 star, and this whole year it was in January, so good for January, and that is The Boys of Briarshaw High. This is book 1. I couldn't even tell you what this is about anymore. I know it's about a girl. Oh, now it's coming back to me. I read this in one day. This was for the Monthly, which I think is coming back next year, whenever Chandler comes back onto YouTube, which is cool, you know, or maybe it's a Goodreads thing. I don't really know, but it kind of fell out. I read all the entries. She only did it to, like, March or something. I can't really remember. The Boys of Briarshaw High, for instance, was a, what was this? How do I even explain this? This is a book about a girl who ends up transferring. She's, like, a wild girl. And she ends up getting, like, I don't know. The consent line here is weird. The sex scenes were weird. The metaphors were weird. And overall, this was just a big disappointment. I mean, not a disappointment. I wasn't really, like, expecting anything. But I was kind of hoping for good smut, and I got really, really trash. Ironically, the next one's also from Monthly. Don't worry, that's a great book club. I highly recommend. It's a fun time over there. But this one's called Pennies. Obviously, I don't know the authors of these people, so, you know. But Pennies, oh, Pennies. How do I even explain Pennies? This is about a girl who gets sold into sex slavery by her father, if I'm not mistaken. And then she falls in love with the person who comes to get her, even though he's a psychopath. This is, like, book 1 of 5, and a lot of people do love it. So, maybe you'll like it. I absolutely didn't. This was a 2-star. You know, it had its moments. I thought it was really fast. So, like, I mean, I read both those books in one day. So, you got that going for you. Alright. The next 2 are, actually, the next 3 are thrillers. As you do. The first one's One by One by Ruth Ware, which is interesting because I think it's more like a 3. But I had such high hopes. And there was not even, like, a specific reason why I had high hopes on it. Because in reality, I really shouldn't have. But it's set up in the mountains. It's snowy. It's like everything I wanted, okay? It's about this group called, oh my god, what is their company called? Snoop? Yes. It's about Snoop and their 6 co-workers as they go up into the mountains onto resort. And, basically, you go up into the mountains in this resort, and they're talking about, they're gonna sell the company, and then there's one girl who has to decide if they're selling the company or they're not selling the company, and such, under those lines. There's some horrible people in it, you know how it goes, the usual one by one, and it's obviously said by one because people keep getting murdered off, and you're trying to figure out who the murderer was. I figured out who the murderer was 20% into the novel. I also did not have a great time. I didn't think the characters were very likable, and I think it was the narrator. I don't actually think, because I've seen other stuff where it said where people really liked the character. I really didn't like the best friend. I thought he was kind of offensive in certain points of the novel, so I'm not really sure. I've read a lot of novels with gay best friends this year for some weird reason, and this one just didn't work out for me. Overall, I don't recommend it, but a lot of people also didn't like it, so, like, I wasn't on the fall side. The next one was, oh, by the way, I would like to mention that both these were also part of a reading club, which is why I read them. I was going to read them no matter what, but I picked them up specifically for Books and Law's book club. The next one is The Guest List by Lucy Fowley, which is so horrible. It's just horrible. I hated it. I hated it. You know, I really, really did not like this book. This is about a group of people, ironically, who go off to an island. Someone dies, and you gotta figure out who dies. You keep jumping back and forth from the time they died and the time they get there, and the characters are fine. The twists in here were really gross, and so I really just think ultimately, like, all of it just kind of fell flat for me. I'm going through this really fast because I have just 0 opinions. The newest one I just read. I read, like, Tuesday. Today is Thursday. So, like, it's a fresh book in my mind. And that is The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. Like I said, there will be another one on this, you know, if you watch my top 10 books. or my best books of the year. He also made an appearance over there. This is the second book I read of his. I picked it up because I thought, okay, this is my fault, nobody else's. I thought it was an ode to slasher films by being a novel written like a slasher film, not a script. And to be honest with you, because I did listen to it it could maybe not even have been written, like, in script form. And I mean that in complete, like, full honesty. But the way it read, it seemed like it was a script. And not a good one at that. It was like a poorly written script. Everything was there that you needed. A man in a mask who murders a whole bunch of people. The gore was fine. I was expecting a lot more. And, like, I mean, extremely more disturbing. Just because of the Only Good Indians. And I know this is, like, one of his earlier novels. And so maybe he just hadn't really, conquered that one yet. I also did not like the overtly sexuality of it. There are horror films out there in the world where, yes, there is a shit ton of nudity in it. And that's what makes the movie. You know, it's just what it is. You know, that's the horror film. That's the whole point of it and stuff. But 96% of the films that he's talked about, he referenced a lot of them, the sex wasn't the big draw. Friday the 13th, eventually it did get to that point where it was like, whose nipples are we seeing today, you know? But it was so focused on sexuality, and the main character is so unlikable. And I think ultimately that was, like, the more disappointing aspect of this novel, is the fact the main characters, you know, for a slasher film to really work, you have to root for your main character. If you can't get behind their actions and they're willing to do things, then, yeah, there's a certain point in the novel where one of the main characters rescues the villain. And I get why it was there, and I understand it completely. From, like, a story standpoint, and for that character, I think it made a lot of sense. But for a main character and supposed to be following, I really just didn't really like it. I thought it was bad. I don't recommend it. There's a few others, like I said. I think I'm going to pick up some of the short material, as I've heard those are really good. So yeah, if you have any favorites, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, we're going to move over to our dishonorable mentions. These are books I was really, really hyped for, or really excited for. No, these are all books I was really hyped for one reason or the other, and they all fell very flat for me. If that's predictability or whatever it might be. The first one we're going to talk about is a book I've never talked about on my channel before, and it did come out this year in March, and that is The Ballot of Songbirds and Snakes by Susan and Collins. My biggest problem with The Ballot of Songbirds and Snakes, which you guys don't know what this is, Ballot of Songbirds and Snakes is a dishonorable mention because I just didn't like the coinkadinks is the answer, is the point. I really didn't like how everything was just wrapped up into this one game. Why did this happen in Hunger Games Book 2? Well, this one game did it. You know, I just didn't really like it. I do like the character development of President Snow, which is who we follow as Cornelius. I like the reasons why, and you can definitely see where he was going by the end of the book. I would definitely not read another one, and I think it was a horrible choice. And overall, I just did not like it, and I don't recommend it. Yet, I know people do love it. So, maybe, you know. All these books are extremely popular that I'm talking about. So, next one we have is Home Before Dark by Riley Sagar, which just saddens me. Oh my god. Okay, so this book, I had a few expectations going into it. I'm not gonna lie. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I also had a few expectations going into. And that is because not Home Before Dark, Lock Every Door by Riley Sagar, I loved it. It was phenomenal. It's probably like 5 stars for me, maybe 4.5 stars. I really thought that was like a really, really well done horror novel. None of his other novels have worked for me. I notoriously hated his first 2 novels, to the point of calling the first one not even a thriller. It's not. I don't know who thinks it is, but it's not. No one can write Final Girls. It's just the point. They're meant for movies. But for Home Before Dark, I really wanted this to be more than what it was. I didn't like the final twist. I understand why. I really liked the elements. Now, I also would like to mention that Haunting on Hill House, which this is like a direct ripoff of, is so much better. So just go watch that instead. I heard the book's not great, so maybe don't read the original book that it's based on. But go watch the TV show. It's like one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. And it's much better than this. I am going to read his next one that comes out next year, Strangers in the Night, or something along those lines. So I will be picking it up, and I will be reading it. But yeah. Next is Pieces of Her by Karen Slaughter. Karen Slaughter, Oh, I had such a fun time with the first 2 novels I read of hers, and the last 2 novels were just not great. Now, Pieces of Her was objectively fine. The story was fine. I really enjoyed me listening to it. So the main issues here, I would say, is the fact I was just really let down. It wasn't so much of a thriller than an actioner, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's much more like a heist book. These are just things I weren't expecting. I was expecting like hardcore murder, as that's what I had gotten in the previous 2 novels, and so I think it was just more like a drift. I will be watching the TV show whenever that does premiere on Netflix. Hopefully next year is my best guess. But guys, those are the worst books I've read this year. No great tea. I didn't read any Sleeping Beauties, but you know how it is. I'll talk to you guys all soon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.